am your host, Thaddeus Campbell. Excited this week to be joined by somebody who is renowned in our industry, John Lindsey, the Lindsey Brokerage Group. So kind to dedicate 30 minutes of his life to come in and at what I feel is a very critical, pivotal time in the storage industry to come in and give us some great insight from a perspective that not everybody has. John's in brokerage and not only in brokerage, but has a background in his family of operations as well, and talks to a whole bunch of people and has a really great perspective on what's going on in the industry. So, John, first and foremost, want to thank you for carving out some time of what I know is a busy schedule and coming and talking storage with us.
No, I'm super thrilled to be here, and I really appreciate it, man. Glad to be chatting with you today.
I love it. So I always go the same place with people because storage is such a niche industry. It's such a unique little space in the world. Yep. I love to hear people's stories of how they managed to get into this asset class that we find ourselves in. How did John Lindsey find himself doing brokerage in self-storage?
Yep, it's a great question. So for those of you who don't know me, John Lindsey, co-founder and president of Lindsey Self-Storage Group, like Thaddeus said. My family actually got into the space in 1969. My dad was a developer, and so I grew up pouring concrete, whether I liked it or not. Job sites at 3 and 4 in the morning running slump tests, just what every middle schooler and high schooler wants to do at their time. But no, I mean, I loved it. I spent a lot of time growing up around sites. My dad, that was the dinner table conversation. And, growing up, I always just wanted to be like my dad. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do what my dad did. And I didn't really know what that meant coming through high school and college. I just figured we'd end up working together someday. And as I was really progressing through college, my dad was a lot older than me when he had me. He was 55 years when I was born. So he was kind of winding down his development career. And he's like, John, look, he's like, I need to know, do you want to get into construction? What do you want to do? And I was like, Dad, I love storage, but I was like, I hate pouring concrete. Like, this is just not like for me. And hats off to those who do. Like, I have some clients that are like, I would never want to do what you do. I love building. That's awesome. It's just, I have the attention span of a goldfish. Like, just not for me. So 2012, my dad's like, so what are you going to do? My dad was like wrapping up one of his last projects. And I was like, I think I want to get into brokerage. I was like, I know a ton about the space, grew up in the industry, spent time around it. And it was a low barrier to entry at the time, which is funny to say now considering how many people are in the space. But I kind of was just sent on to my own into the universe. My dad's like, look, if you have any questions, like I'll make introductions for you. If you meet anyone, like feel free to drop my name. He's like, but you're kind of on your own. And so I remember it was terrifying. I sat down at a desk in this like tiny little office I had rented right after college. And I sat down the first day and was like, what the hell do I do now? Like I had no idea what I was doing. I had never cut my teeth at like a bigger shop. Like I didn't know what a CRM system was. I was just kind of like picked up the phone and started dialing. And 12 years later, here we are, still in the flesh.
Where do you think that a bunch of things that come out of that I could go down the road, but I think the thing that I was most interested in is, man, it takes a lot of guts when you have this ready-made deal, right? Like your dad has this business, it's worked. He's been in it for 30, 40 years at that point. You know that there's an avenue to success in the industry, right? Because development and storage has shown ridiculous returns forever. How do you have the guts to say, you know what? I just don't like that. I'm going to go a totally different unknown direction. Where does that come from?
So, I also, in hindsight, maybe I should have gotten into development given the timing of everything. But I'll never regret my path. I absolutely love what I do and where I'm at. And I'm very thankful for the life that we've built. But, my dad was so encouraging growing up. He was present in everything I did. And I will say, not to the point of like, you get a participation trophy for everything. But if I wanted to get into something or I wanted to do it, he 100% supported me to go do that and would ensure I had all the tools necessary to become the best in whatever that was. So whether it was Science Olympiad or running a varsity state track meet, like he was there by my side in my ear telling me that I was the best at everything. Nothing was in my way. I could do anything I put my mind to. Like he just fueled me with positivity. And looking back now, didn't realize at the time how awesome that was for someone coming up at 12, 13, 16, 18 years of age, like just being pumped with positivity all the time. And again, not to say like I I didn't mess up, or that we didn't have stern talkings to about like, you committed to this, you're going to finish it. But
Yeah.
when I think where there were times where I doubted myself, he was always in my ear saying like, no, you can do this. It's easy. You just put in the work and you'll get it. And so I think I just kind of was like, cool, I can do this. My dad said I could, so I'm going to go do it. And I ran with it. And like I said, we're still here 12 years later.
We're going 12 years later. It just highlights the power of mentorship and those of us, and I've won the lottery with fathers also. When you win the father lottery as a guy, it's a big deal.
Yeah, all you can hope for. So yeah, it's been awesome. We lost him about 2 years ago. Thankful for the time that we had. He was 87 when he passed. If I make it to 87, I will be thrilled. We had a wonderful relationship and just grateful for the quality of the time that we did have together and really just seeing my brother and I into this space and letting us kind of go on our own to where we are today, and just thankful to be in such a cool space. And I really consider it like a second family.
I'm going to divert for 3 seconds because you mentioned running track in high school, and I was a high school track guy. So I got to ask you, what did you run in track?
I ran the 200 and I threw discus. Those are my.
All right, you were the complete opposite of me. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, you got to give me a time here. If you ran in the state meet, you had to be running pretty good 200s.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a USA track and field meet this summer. So time for me. First one I've run since senior of high school. I got to see if I still got it.
So I got on a track this morning and did a workout for the first time since September of 1992. So something we can connect on in the future. But I'm going to get back into self-storage now. I'm going to keep this going on the right track. And I want to go down a road you talked about, which is the storage family.
Yeah.
I didn't get into storage till I was 47 years old. And quite frankly, it's unique from what my experiences and what I've seen in other places. Tell me a little bit about maybe your take on why storage is just, there's so many great people, so many kind people, so many people that are willing to help out.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about the smallness of the industry and the openness. It's definitely like a rising tide raises all ships kind of mentality. And it's so rare. Like you said, I have friends that come over from industrial, office, just even other commercial asset classes. And they're like, what the hell? Like everyone's best friends and everyone's sharing data. And I'm like, well, yeah, like what's good for you is good for me. Like, I don't want you to build 100,000 square feet next to my site if I'm already struggling, and I'm going to save you a lot of money for not wasting 10 million on a construction project. So like, I think there's just this understanding of like, look, we've got this great asset class that serves an awesome need in our community and across the country. Like, let's continue to see that be successful for decades to come. And two, it is really unique. There's so many second gens like me in storage. I've got a great group of friends in this space that I've literally been going to shows with for like 15 years, and we're all buddies. I've been in weddings from storage. I've gone on vacations with people from storage. Like it really is like going to a family reunion. We go to the trade shows, and I haven't found anything else like it.
Love it. All right, I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm going to dial back to 2012, and John Lindsey rents an office. Starts dialing. Who are you calling? How many calls are you making? What makes this work for you?
Yep. So it's so funny because, I started making calls, and especially in 2012, like a lot of like owners weren't getting phone calls for brokerage. They'd be like, yeah, I'll sell my site. Like, and we were listing at like 11 and 12 caps, and no one was buying them, and I think, it's interesting. There was a very early period of time where I got a couple deals under my belt. And at a very early age, I got complacent. And there was I remember a 6 to 9 month window where I took my foot off the gas, wasn't making as many calls. And I remember that first time when deals weren't coming through, it's like 2013. And I told myself, I was like, I will never do that again. It was like the first like wake up call I had, but like super early in my career. And now in hindsight, at a time when there was affordability to have that lapse in judgment in my career and in the space. And I'm thankful that it happened. Thankful it happened when it did. And I just remember telling myself, like, I'll never allow myself to be outworked or put in that position again, because I like to have control. That's why I went out on my own. I'm the most like unhireable person of all time. Like, work great with people, but like, I march the beat of my own drum. That's what I do. And so I just knew in building my team the way I wanted and creating structure, it would allow us to continue to be successful for years to come. And I share those messages now with all my team members and anyone else that asks, because we're all human. We all make mistakes. And like, had I not done that, I don't think I'd be nearly as successful as I am today. So, those first few years, kind of floundering, kind of finding my way. I got super involved with different state organizations. I got involved in North Carolina and South Carolina, quickly became president of those associations, started getting some legislative work done, got involved in the national level, started speaking at national and international trade shows. I mean, it just very quickly snowballed and very organically. One thing led to another, and here we are today in 2024. It's been a wild ride, that's for sure.
You brought up something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. I have a couple deals further down the funnel. I'm not in brokerage, I'm doing ground up development, but it's so easy when you have a couple deals further down the funnel. And there's a lot of work that goes in as you're pushing those deals, hopefully out the bottom of the funnel, especially right now. What's the secret to keeping the top of the funnel full? Because obviously, if you don't fill the top of the funnel, it goes dry very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, look, the idle hands are the devil's best tools. Period. I mean, I am a busy man. And not to say I don't think busy equals quality work. I certainly make time for working out with my family and my young daughter. But like during the workday, like if I'm not on the phone, then I'm not getting work done. I mean, I am always, and I try to remind my younger team members that, and anyone getting into sales, whatever space it's in or a vendor within the space, like I will not be outworked. I still try and beat my entire team, even though I'm leading the team in cold calls every week. I am out there dialing for dollars like everyone else. I'm putting my face and my work with that name. My name is behind my brand and my company and what I do. And I think all of my clients that we've closed with and seen with, like, they know we're out there making that hustle for them in order to get this deal done.
This jumped out at me when we scheduled this podcast interview. It was literally like 5 weeks out that we put it on your calendar. Yeah. What does your calendar look like?
It's terrifying. I don't think you'd like to see it. I'm like a 15-minute block kind of guy. Like it's scary. I mean, from the time I wake up, my morning routine, my workout, waking my daughter up, starting my cold calls, taking calls to the team. I just need structure to my day, and that's how I function really well. I have an amazing team lead. Sarah's the ultimate backbone of everything Lindsey Self Storage Group does. She keeps me well between the rails and just schedules everything for me. Without a great team member like that, I would be very lost. So she makes sure that things get on my calendar and punt it out accordingly when we're getting things done and scheduled. But I think I've showed some of my friends my schedule, and I think it kind of makes their head spin. But I work better with structure than lack thereof. That's for sure.
How important is that, surrounding yourself with the people that, maybe fill in some gaps that are not your natural area of expertise?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in a couple things. One, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I am in the wrong room. I really want to be surrounded by people much smarter and much better than me in every capacity. And two, I'm a really big believer in getting the right people on the bus and then figuring out where they need to sit. Because there's some people that we've brought on, I'm like, man, like we get along. You are great with people. You understand the space, but maybe brokerage is new to you, or maybe you came from brokerage in a different class, or maybe again we've hired one of our team members. He was in the development side beforehand, and kind of similar to me. I was like, man, this inside and out. I'd love to leverage this skill set with our development clients. And so I've been really selective in growing our team. We've been approached by big shops to get bought out over the years. We have a lot of people that reach out to be a part of our team. There's only 7 brokers, and we keep a very tight circle. We love that. We all get along well. We all, I think, collaborate really well, which is really unique. Sometimes you see this combativeness or, steal my way to the top within a team and kind of step on everyone. And I'm just like, look, this is a small space. We all plan on being here for a long time. As you well know, that I just have building sites. It's a very long pipeline for everything. So, those like people who think they're going to in and out in a couple of years, like it's just not what the space is built on. And it's taken me a long time to build these relationships, and I've fostered a team that recognizes that and really is like that rising tide raises all ship mentality that we talked about. That's felt across the industry. And I think that's what's so unique about kind of the culture that we've tried to build here.
I love that. It's something that's easy to talk about. it's very hard to live that, right? Because it requires you to set your ego aside. You talked about, how easy it is to cutthroat, and especially for someone like you who is a elite level athlete in high school, you're competitive by nature, obviously, but you really have to set that aside and let your ego go to build a team like that.
Correct. And that's just something, we're really good about newer team members coming in, building them into deals from day one. Like, I'm like, look, I want to show that we're investing in you. Like, I want you to be here. Otherwise I wouldn't have brought you on. And I think a lot of times they're like, well, survival of the fittest, be on your way. And I've just always felt like, well, it's not a great brand you're portraying. Like, the reason that we're able to keep our team small and selective is because we pour so much into our team. And I'm just a big believer in, like, you can't fill someone else's cup if yours is empty. So I try and really show that, like, I had so much love and dedication shown from my father to me. I try and pass on to my team members, and I expect it back from them, not in a fiscal way, but I'm like, look, if I'm putting in this much effort to you when I'm juggling these 10 other balls, I expect the same effort back. And so it's more of just showing this commitment to them as a person and the success of them long term. That's ultimately what I want out of the space, because it's been such a great space to me, and I just want to continue to share that with people who see that as their future.
Man, you're making the former martial arts instructor in me get giddy over here, because you just nailed it, right? It's nurturing somebody. It doesn't mean a lack of expectation. It doesn't mean that you don't expect them to give something back, but you lead the way, and right, that's such an awesome philosophy, and really kind of makes me understand why you've been as successful as you have doing what you're doing. I'm going to start. We're amazingly almost 20 minutes into this interview now, and I'm getting short time. I want to now pick your brain about really what your expertise is, and try and give some people watching maybe a little insight. Before I go into today and what's actually happening today, I want to ask you about COVID, because it was such an absolutely insane time in general, but specifically in storage. And for you in brokerage, man, have you ever seen anything in your life that resembled what happened in the self-storage industry during COVID?
Not even close. And I don't think we will for a very long time. It was the perfect combination of supply, economy, market forces, the only successful real estate class during that time. I mean, it was wild. I don't think we could have concocted a more perfect storm coupled with that debt environment that we saw. And even if we saw something like this again, I don't know the next time we're going to see debt where it was. So, right. I mean, it was bananas. It was cool to be a part of it. I think it was one of those things, once we realized what was going on, it was already 21, and then we saw those debt hikes. I mean, it was short-lived. It came and went like that. And stuff that was tied up. I remember summer of 22 when we had those 275 bip hikes back to back. Like, that was kind of screeching halt.
Don't remind me. That cost me a $21.6 million deal that I was going to get a little piece of. those two hikes hurt a little bit.
We had two deals dropped within the same day as the second one was announced, and I was like,
"Yeah,
I'm not laying in bed right now."
I had two deals drop one day after the other, so it was. Yeah, I'll never forget that. But anyway, not to be a downer, because listen, the reality was it was going to stop at some point. But tell me a little bit about the transaction velocity between 2021, 22.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I think this is anecdote. This is the best that I've seen, because 20, 21, 22, bananas years. Just, I mean, look at even the macro level, some of the large deals, just billions and billions and billions of dollars transactions. Yeah. What I think is the most interesting, in 23, we saw the brakes really hit for the first time. We felt the slowdown, but we closed 34 deals last year. 30 of those were closed before August 1st. Wow. So think about that. From
4 deals.
Yeah, 4 deals. All those rate hikes hit. People started panicking. People were like, Fed's out of control. We don't know when the next rate hike is. Pencils down. They're like, we're going to just stop. It was creepy. It was the first time that I'd say in 4 or 5 years, I've been like, whoa, like, I don't know when this is going to turn. Yeah. And then Q1 this year, Fed's like, we've punted rate hikes a little further, maybe some. So people started doing more deals. It's really been the last 60 days since Fed was like maybe December, maybe next year, people have been like, screw it, I can't wait anymore. Like, this is the new norm. We either do deals or we don't. We've waited 6-9 months. I have groups that historically buy 50 deals a year. They bought one deal last year. I have other groups that bought 60 deals last year and have bought 30 this year so far. So I mean, there are groups that are hyperactive, but I think a lot of groups were just waiting and waiting and waiting for this promised rate cut. And now that it's been punted out into existence, and we don't know when, I know there's another Fed meeting soon, but in all realities, it's probably after the election, if not next year. So now people are just like, this is the new norm. It is what it is. I think sellers' phones have stopped ringing as much as they were. A lot of sellers have come back to, I would say, this new norm as well. And we're slammed right now. We've got over 45 deals listed. I mean, half those are under contract or in negotiation. I mean, we are back to, I would consider, a very normal, healthy pace. And I think what's cool for the first time, Thaddeus, we're seeing seller finance deals. We're seeing, mom and pop $500,000, 10,000 square foot sites. We're seeing $40 million Class A deals. I mean, it is everything in between. C of O, lease up, stabilize. Like, every piece of the asset class is trading right now. And I think for the first time since 2019 at reasonable prices. But it's at a state again where everyone can make money. We're at a point where sellers are making money, buyers have an opportunity to buy at the right price to then make money down the road again further. I'm really pleasant with where this new market equilibrium is, and I think it's a great time for both buyers and sellers to transact this year. And for the first time, I think it's pretty evenly weighted on both sides.
I love that. I want to dig into something you said there, and you said 34 transactions in 2023. Can you compare that to what your volume was in 2021, 2022?
So 21, 22, I would say about the same transaction volume. 21, 22, we were doing larger deals and they had much less care. So I would say dollar-wise, we were down. Transaction volume about the same. But I think, again, a lot of the larger portfolios or a lot of the larger Class A builders were like, I was used to getting 4 cap offers. This 6.5 cap doesn't really work for me. I'll just hold it through lease up. And so I think that was the quantum shift we had, was just the size of deals. And so now that's opened well back up. We've got big Class A portfolios trading. We've got small mom and pop one-off trading. I mean, we run the gamut. I was looking at our active deal chart this morning. We literally range from $500,000 to $40 million right now. And so it's everything in between. And I kind of like that space. Like, I love helping the first time owner operators sell their first store and make their first substantial chunk of change. Like, that to me is like an emotional win. I love that. Yeah. I also love big deals. I love worked with all the REITs and all the big developers. Like, that's fun. I've built those sites before. I love being on that side of the table. Like, that to me is what I've been in the career to do, is to do those deals. But we handle literally everything in between. So it's nice to see kind of everything transacting again right now. And I think that's gonna kind of be the tone for the rest of the year. I mean, it's status quo headed into the election unless something wild happens.
I'm going to dig down a little bit. You talked about sellers starting to come to grips with the market, right? Is there enough? Are there enough sellers in that place where they sort of have a really valid reason to sell, where they can look past? I mean, look, I heard stories of guys selling CO deals at like less than 3 caps, like high 2 caps in 2021, 22. Like, just, and for any of you guys who don't understand, that's your percentage of return. Like, somebody's paying you for 30 years of your net operating income up front. Even if they're paying you 20, 25 years, that's unheard of unless you're in downtown New York City or downtown LA. And we're a storage facility in Denver, right? Are there enough sellers now coming to this place where it's like, hey man, I'm ready to go. I'm going to accept the fact that there's no 4 cap offer on the horizon in the next couple of years?
Correct. I'll give you a great example. We have a great client. In 2019, they bought a deal for 1.2. In the peak of the market, I think it was end of 21, early 22, they got an offer for $4 million on their site. They turned it down. They tried to bid up for some more, didn't work, whatever. We recently got an offer for 3.4, and they're heavily considering taking it. And my comment would be the same to everyone. Look, You're still making $2 million. That's probably a 10x on your equity.
Yep.
Let's not step over dollars to chase pennies here. If you want
Yep.
to wait for your site to get back to 4 million, it might be another 3 to 4 years, or you can take the 2 million today, redeploy it into 2 or 3 more deals,
Yep.
recycle your capital in the same time, and probably make a lot more. So a lot of our conversation, Thaddeus, is just education purpose. Just saying, look, I hear you. I'm not going to be numb to the fact. I think we all wish we could have bought NVIDIA stock a year ago, or we all could have sold our storage facilities in 21, but we didn't. So let's digest where we are now. Think about the reality and the tangible amount of money that you are able to make. And you know, look, I'll tell you right now, like I'm selling my house in North Carolina. We just moved to Florida. When we hired our real estate agent, I didn't negotiate a penny. I said, look, I'm gonna trust you to do exactly what you do, and I'm going to lean on your advice because you transact hundreds of homes a year. Like, I need your input in this market and this situation. We got the offer we wanted within 12 hours. We took it, and she's been a guiding force through this whole process. Like,
Yep.
yeah, maybe we could have waited, maybe we could have held out, but I'm like, look, this checks the box. Let's recycle the capital. Let's move on. We went hard on DD today. We closed next Monday. From the day we signed a list agreement to closing, it was like 30 days. Like, what's my opportunity cost of maybe waiting and delaying this? And who knows if there's a rate hike or a cut or anything. I tell people all the time, I'm like, bird in the hand, take the guarantee. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Like, you'll never go broke taking a profit. Move on to the next deal. That's how life works. Like,
You don't go broke taking a win, right? No matter how small it might be.
A win's a win. And I just, you know, I think it pains me sometimes when I see people, they're like quibbling over like who pays, you know, this $2,500. I'm like, you're making $7 million. Who gives a shit? Like, just pay it, move on. Like, and it's a conversation I have way too often in this space. But you know, their argument always is that it's like, well, I wouldn't have got here if I just made concessions like that. And I'm like, yeah, but let's look at the bigger picture here. And so I think that's just a lot of what we're sharing right now through our comps, through the deals we're doing. It's like, look, what do you actually want to do with this capital? And if you want this cash now, let's take it and help you redeploy it in other deals so you can do this again in 5 years and 2x it again and move on. So I think that's just kind of where we are. And we've been hammering that message for about 18 months now. And it's finally kind of coming to rest with a lot of people.
I'm going to ask a final question just for fun. Do you ever stop and say, man, I'm working and it's very normal for me to say, hey, you're about to take a $7 million profit. You ever pinch yourself and say,
it's so funny you say that because my wife, when we started dating, she like listened to my phone calls and she's like, what do you do for a living? Like, I had to explain to her what I do. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you just take these calls and you're like, yeah, we'll do 25 million for this and, you know, this and that. And she's just like, it has become the norm. And it is funny because I see it on paper all the time. I see people make like life-changing money. It's very cool to be a part of that process. Like, it is awesome. I love nothing more than helping people, especially like, you know, helping developers make money is great. That's what they do for a living. And I love being the guy to do that. But nothing is cooler than like Farmer Joe, who's owned a site for 30 years, never thought about selling it. He built it just to own it and make some money. Yeah. And he's like, I got no debt. And I'm like, hey, congrats. Here's your contract for $5 million cash. And we're going to close in 45 days. Like, he never in a million years thought he would see that. And my favorite is their reaction every time. They're like, how about that? They just like,
oh, that's great. Yeah, hey, listen, we're fast coming up on 30 minutes. And before we go, I want to have everyone that's watching, what's the best way to get a hold of John Lindsey? Somebody wants to pick your brain, maybe utilize Lindsey Self-Storage Group for their property, or if they're looking to buy and want to get on your list, what's the easiest way for someone to get a hold of you?
Great question. So we do free valuations for any and all properties. If you're still building it or you've owned it for 30 years, whatever it is, feel free to reach out. You can go to our website, lindseyselfstoragegroup.com. You can email me directly, john@lindseyselfstoragegroup.com. We would love to help cover the whole country. Would love to be a resource for you in whatever capacity.
Oh man, we'll have to do this again sometime. This 30 minutes went by in like 4 seconds. I have a million more questions I could ask you so easily, but want to honor your time as always, want to honor the listeners and make sure that they can get through this very easily. Thank you so much, man. An absolute wealth of knowledge and really fun to hear your take.
Well, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it and look forward to doing it again soon.
That is it for this week's episode of the Self Storage Made Simple podcast. If you got anything of value, please give it a like, hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on future episodes coming out on our YouTube channel. Look forward to seeing you guys next week.